Show and Reset Medical and Wellness Center podcast. And our first guest today is the patient engagement specialist for Reset Medical, Julie Ferguson. Julie, thanks for stopping by. And as we look outside, it looks like it's still winter. Isn't that interesting? But we're
very true. Yes, little windy.
Little windy on St. Patrick's Day. So let's kind of jump into your story, because really we want to focus today on NSR treatment and how the benefits and how it's a game changer. But talk to us how a little bit of your background and then how you got involved with Reset.
Sure. So I'll try to make this a little bit shorter. I served as a police officer in the Chicago Police Department for 25 years. I retired 3 years ago. In fact, to the date, St. Patrick's Day was my last day working.
Oh my.
So it's my retirement anniversary. Throughout my career, I've always been invested in mental health. I do have a son who suffers from serious mental health issues. And so I have done various things along the way, speaking, advocating, teaching. I help create and implement our juvenile crisis intervention training program. And he's always a vested interest, working in peer support for many years. And so after I had retired, I was floundering, as people do in our business. You're always looking for a purpose, and purpose is very important. And when you retire from being a first responder or being in military, you still need in your life. And so initially I had moved to Ohio. So not only did I retire, but I moved to a whole different state where I didn't know anyone outside of my husband and his family, who are wonderful. But I really had to make connections here. I'm a people person by nature, and I like people, and I like to be around people. And so initially I went to work as a manager of a spa. I worked in the spa industry for about a year-ish, year and a half. And then I saw this job come up. And as I read the description, I felt like it was written for me. It touched upon mental health. It touched upon understanding the military, first responders. And I thought, boy, I think this is where I need to be. I always believe that things happen for a reason. And obviously I sent my resume in and they called me within 24 hours. And I think I was hired pretty quickly thereafter. And it's truly been the most humbling experience of my career.
Absolutely. And why humbling experience? So basically you got hired, and I think in a lot of ways, as many years as a police officer, you didn't know what you were dealing with, really, because once you retire from something that's so on all the time and dealing with so much trauma, so much challenges as a police officer, especially in Chicago, and the things that you saw, you really didn't know yourself that well at that point. Would you agree? In certain aspects.
For myself, I've always been very intuitive about things that I've been going through. I've been going through therapy on and off for 25 years. So I really try to stay connected into my mental health. I do understand that you have to advocate for yourself, right? At the end of the day, coming from a violent city, let's be honest. I don't know what the statistics are specifically, but I believe I just read around police officer will see 800 to 900 traumatic or experience 800 to 900 traumatic incidents, right? In a year.
Wow.
Now, being in Chicago, you could probably guess that's a lot higher. And so learning about something like the Neuro-Sympathetic Reset was mind-blowing to me. First of all, that it had been around for decades and
Right.
No one was talking about it. No one was talking about it in the mental health communities I was in. And so it was fascinating to me to watch. But of course, I am a skeptic and I wanted to see how it worked. And so as I got this job, and my role is onboarding patients and learning about their symptoms and understanding and just walking them through the process. But I sat back and just waited and waited. Now, the other part of my role is calling patients after treatment, right? Because we are very patient-focused. We really want to be a support system to them. And so patient after patient kept expressing how well they were doing, how much better they were feeling. how it had greatly impacted and changed their life. And I too wanted to have that experience, as you can imagine. And so I finally went to Dr. Lowers and said, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to get the treatment. And so I did, and I did document it, which of course you can see on our website. But I wanted to document it because I wanted other people to see what it looked like, to take away the scariness of the procedure itself, and to just see someone that was like them, that lived in their world, was either first responder or military, and could see that this has been transformative in my own life.
Absolutely. So you doing it, and that's where we're going to take us through this NSR treatment. Okay. For you, a non-clinical, but more as a patient, and which is really, truly intriguing, as I will be talking about in other podcasts, my experience understanding that already. But it's really a game changer. And when you were talking to other patients, what made you say that decide, I'm going to do this? Because at first you're probably like, okay, this is not me. There are a lot of people with trauma, but when you started to call these patients and started things, what signs told you, I need this?
That's a great question. So it's interesting to me because there are a lot of things that you really don't recognize in yourself, right? Simple things like getting agitated easily. There's a joke among police, I don't know about the other, but it's we don't like people, right? But it's not really a joke. Part of that is true. We get very uncomfortable in crowd, and our reactiveness is overreactiveness. We tend to blow things out of context pretty quickly. I think that's a commonality where something in, let's say, my husband's eyes might be minute. To me, it's a bigger deal, and I need to resolve it. Then there's the other aspect of safety. Because safety is always in the forefront of my brain, because that's what I spent 25 years doing, was protecting people. And you go to a large gathering, maybe you or someone like yourself is heading to get some food or enjoying the music, or someone like me who comes from a safety background is scanning the crowd, looking for threats, looking where the exits are, ingress, egress. I can go through it, and I'm sure this will resonate with a lot of first responders and military out there. You can't help it. Part of it's training, part of it's trauma. And it's not for me to differentiate the two, but that's just what happens. You're not sleeping as well. You can get anxiety. My anxiety wasn't very high. I have managed that pretty well over the year. But it's not uncommon for things to just set you off in a moment's notice.
You're just set off. And understanding that. I understand, and just in the background of being a former bouncer, I never stopped just looking. And people were thinking, why are you such a people watcher? But from being in that experience as a bouncer, I never, even just doing it for 5 years off and on, and also, I guess, being a professional wrestler, that I probably had situational awareness from the crowd of someone in the crowd coming up and going after me. I was used to bigger crowds watching me. So I can see some of those things and say, wow. But that's really when you're with your significant other or family or friends, are probably like, what's going on here? This is not normal. And it's just, but I think it is good at this time that we have some sort of situational awareness, but not to this alert reason. Would this kind of wake you up at night sometimes thinking about the experience, or maybe this could happen, or what if once you're a civilian?
Sure. Here, transitioning from being active all the time to retirement is overwhelming. To put it simply, it can be very overwhelming. And so when you're used to waking up at a moment's notice and throwing on a uniform and running out the door, all of a sudden you're waking up like, oh my gosh, wait, I don't have to go to work today. I don't have to do those things. There's nothing going on, because obviously we in a big city have to react to everything that's going on around the world. And so it's not uncommon for you to change hours or change shifts or work late. And so your body gets adjusted to never fully resting. And so that rest is truly important in your life. But as you said, you understand it being a bouncer, like all these little things that you don't even notice until much later, and with age breeds wisdom.
Exactly. And then you just think that's normal to be situated on those things. And then they say it's good to be on alert. But that's one thing. You're dealing with a lot of other things. And then you heard, and this is where I like not going in much your story, as other people's stories swayed you to go ahead and do this. First of all, you brought up some of those things. What things did you hear from patients that said, you know what, I need this? What were those? Okay, I'd love to feel like that again. I'd love to be this way again. You know what I mean?
Commonalities. I have a lot of commonalities with these patients, don't I? I feel like if I could write a script, we all have the same thing. We have rumination. We have insomnia. We have agitation, anger, again, not doing well in crowded spaces, hypervigilance, always on alert, always ready to go. And as I started hearing it over and over, it really started to resonate that part of this is me too. I want to be a nicer person.
Right.
I want to be an easy breezy going person because that's how I was prior to this job. I was very friendly and outgoing, and I feel like a part of that was taken away. And after treatment, I didn't have a dramatic change. So what I mean by that is oftentimes patients can get an emotional release, sometimes right after the procedure, sometimes within that first week. It's not necessarily, doesn't mean it's not working. I didn't have that. For me, my changes were very subtle. And I think I attribute to some of that from going to therapy for many years. I don't know. But I did have changes in my attitude, changes in just feeling lighter every day. I just felt so much lighter. You can breathe. And then the biggest thing that resonated with me, and it took quite a bit of time to really recognize it, is I wake up in the morning and I have a positive attitude. I feel like it's been many years since I woke up, had a song in my head, and started singing in the shower or night. For me, it was like normal in my early 20s. And then after this job, all of that went away because, again, you jump out of bed, you're on high alert, and you're ready to go. Your body never got a time to really rest. And I feel like this gave my nervous system a place to really rest and recoup.
So take us through the treatment. So you've already talked about the signs. You heard that from other people, it resonated, you did it. But take us through leading up to the treatment and getting ready to do it. So people that are hearing these things saying, I'm dealing with these things. I'd love these things to go away. You look at the number of people that are on anxiety medications and different things, especially starting women in their 40s and 50s and all these different things. They didn't have the type of stress job like that, but they had some sort of trauma or challenge in their lives. Go into more of specifically leading us up to the treatment and going to the treatment.
Sure. First of all, women is a whole separate subject. Depending on
well, we can talk about it as specifically on another podcast. Yeah, exactly.
I feel since I hit 40, it's been a healing journey, right? And I'm always trying to find things that make me healthier and just a better person, more connected with the people around me, my family, my friends, people that are important to me, and shut down the noise. Things around you are no longer important. And prior to getting the treatment, I really had to do some self-reflection, right? How was this going to impact me? Was it going to impact me? What are the things that I've done? What are the things I can continue to do? And so, ironically, there are a lot of patients that come to us with a similar story, have been through therapy, have been on medication, have done all the things, and it's just not working. And I don't want to say it's not working altogether. There are parts of it that may be working, but there's a part that's really missing. For me, I could literally feel my nervous system. I don't know the word, but it's almost like having a type of internal alarm system. And so in a very stressful situation or a dangerous situation, it would ramp up. And I wanted that to go away. I wanted to not have that anymore. And I was hearing that consistently through the first responder world, through the military world, that they were having the same symptoms also. And I just finally decided this is it. This is another part of my healing journey, aside from therapy, aside from mindfulness, which I've practiced for years, working out, exercise, trying to focus on diet, and working on your nutrition. Like, this is a next step in my chapter.
Okay. So once you go, take us through what it feels like going the day of and stuff.
Okay. So the day of, I actually worked the whole day. It was like a normal day. Yeah. I wasn't nervous, obviously, because of the team that is here. I truly trust every person that I work with and wholeheartedly. I wouldn't be working here if I didn't believe in them or this treatment. That is a fact. We went into the treatment room and I'll walk you through what it looks like. It's really quick and simplistic. The first part is you're going to meet with one of the nurses. And so the nurse comes in, they just go over your medical history. They will then take your vitals and put an IV into your arm. If you need any fluids at any time, it's just a safety precaution. Once that's completed, Dr. Lowers will come into the room as he did with me, even though I see him every day, and he just goes over your symptoms with you. He just tries to understand where you're coming from and what your goals or aspirations are. Once that's completed, you go into the procedural room. And like I said, that part is pretty quick. He first takes out an ultrasound and looks at your neck and kind of maps out where to do the injections. It is a series of injections. The first part is he's going to inject a numbing agent. So it's similar to going to the dentist. Personally, I didn't find it painful. I didn't really find any of the procedure painful. Uncomfortable, yes. Painful, no. So then once you're numb and he gives you a little bit of time, he walks you through it step by step. The nurses are there. They'll hold your hand if you need. We actually talk the whole time during the procedure. It's not uncommon for people to talk during the procedure. It's a very casual environment, although sterile environment. Then he did the injections, and that was really it. I got up and not standing up, but sitting up off the table, and boy, a little off balance, that's for sure. Definitely off balance. Wasn't really sure how to feel. And your face feels numb and your eye feels heavy and you have this big lump in your throat. It feels very strange. And then they walk you into the procedure room, which was a little uncomfortable too, because I'm not used to people walking me places. And even though I've seen it a million times, I was a little bit stubborn. I got this, but realistically, I'm glad they were there to hold me up. And then you go into recovery for about 45 minutes to an hour, where they watch your vitals, make sure you're steady on your feet. We give you snacks and drinks. You're in a nice recliner. Your loved one can come in. My husband came in and sat with me. And once you feel good, 45 minutes an hour, you can go about your day as you wish. Now, I don't know how far you want me to go into this, but
no, this is good. We definitely need a part 2 for this podcast because you're providing, and that's where I'll go. I rather go what changes you saw and how those resonated with you before deciding the treatment. What things at first were a wow factor? Okay, this is really, I can feel my brain thinking differently. I can feel my body in a different way.
Yeah. So each side, you have different reaction. So side one, the right side, I went home and to be honest, I had all this energy. It's like, almost felt like I could run a marathon. It was very weird. My husband kept saying, shouldn't you be sitting down? And all I wanted to do was like cook and clean and I don't know, call people that I haven't spoken with. It was almost euphoric. Side 2 was a totally different reaction. Side 2, I had hoarseness really bad. I couldn't speak for about 6 hours. I was very tired. The whole day I was yawning. In fact, the tiredness didn't wear off for me for a couple weeks. Not that I couldn't function or go to work or anything like that, but I was going to bed at night at about 7:30 every night for a couple weeks. And so I think I was like, okay, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? Because I like to be very analytical about everything. And I think the first thing I noticed was just the lightness in how I was feeling. I just felt lighter, like all that stress and guilt and had just been wiped away. And for those that don't know, obviously being a single parent of a child that has a mental illness, you carry a lot of guilt. I think parents carry a lot of guilt in these industries, right? Because we're gone all the time and we're on schedules that we have no control over and we miss important moments in our family's lives and we carry that with us. And so that for me was life-changing, just not holding all that guilt all that time. And then, like I had said earlier, the other part was later that I noticed just the change in my view in things, just feeling calmer, just waking up happier, just being able to be in the moment and not worrying about 100 other things that were going on in life, be able to focus on what's in front of me. Oftentimes, this procedure will give your brain a pause. And that sounds very strange, but it's not that you're never going to feel stressed out or you're never going to feel anxiety again, but it's almost like your brain says, wait a minute, hold on, let's take a pause here. We don't need to go down that path. And you don't go down. It's like you have a choice. You don't have to go down that path. And it's a fleeting moment and you let it pass.
Well, yeah. But this is not a bed of roses all the time. Through the treatment, you need to still continue to work on things, see a mental health therapist potentially, or do whatever works well for you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're not going to slip, but you're going to feel things that you probably haven't felt in a long time. So there's going to be emotional periods of time that are different. And that's something to talk about in another podcast for sure. And so I love how you place this together today. What you were able to do is talk about going into the job first, not doing the treatment, learning from this from the patients, saying you're going to do it. Now, I bet my final question is you're helping patients even more now because you went through the treatment.
My hope is that I am, right? Because I'm one of those people that I wouldn't ask people to do something that I have never done, especially something like this. And so I want people to feel safe coming in. And it resonates and it gives people a sense of comfort when they're coming in to know that that's one of the first things I actually tell people. I have done this treatment. You can ask me anything. And just to let you know, it looks different on everyone. My results may be different from your results. I have seen transformative results. We have had people come in and leave a whole different person. That part is not very uncommon. Although my results weren't, I want to use the word explosive, it wasn't drastic, let's say. Mine were more subtle. It doesn't mean that yours won't be. It really genuinely looks so different in everybody, but it's so humbling at the same time to just see people be able to take part of their life back and to find some joy. Just simple things like joy.
Absolutely. All right. The best place people can connect with everyone at Reset Medicals, go where? Tell everybody.
Oh, gosh. You can find us on social media. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. But the best place to find us is to go to our website, theresetcenter.com, or you can give us a call at 877-737-3810 and ask to speak to Julie if you'd like. I'd be more than happy to talk you through this.
What's fantastic for the first podcast is just what we were able to learn today. And I learned even more about specific things in your story and how to get to work with someone and the people there, because I have been to the Reset Medical and Wellness Center. Unbelievable how nice everyone is there. All right. Appreciate it, Julie. Thanks again.
Thank you.
That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Reset Medical and Wellness Center podcast, guys. Take care.